All right, thanks for sharing that. Yelling, yes, yelling is a challenge for a lot of us, including myself. Um, and it's just as a result of how we have been conditioned, how we have been trained, the stresses of life, and many other things in between. So, Mrs. BC says to be more on the same page, agree with my daughter in terms of values and belief in raising my grandson. All right. Um, okay, that's good. So why I did this, why we had this conversation is I don't know why I'm not going live on Telegram. Why we're having this conversation is so that we're clear on what we really, really want, like for you to say this is my best parenting year, you have to understand what best looks like, right? For you to say I was successful in a venture, you have to understand what success look like or your own definition of success, right? So for many people, their definition of success when it comes to parenting would vary, but there are fundamental principles. If you have been in any of my trainings before, I always say that parenting is not measured by, the degrees. Can we all mute ourselves? Parenting is not measured by the degrees or the schools that your children went to. It's good, yeah, for your children to go to the best schools, for your children to have the best education, but that is not the the metrics for measuring your success in parenting. The metrics for measuring your success in parenting is that at the end of the day, when your child is leaving your home as an adult or whenever they leave their home, because again, that age will vary for different people, that they have a sense of who they are, that they are wholesome, they have a sense of direction of what their purpose looks like, that they are aligned to who God has made them to be as much as possible, that you have created that foundation for them, because that is the foundation on top which every other thing will be built on, right? And the things we do or do not do as at this nurturing age will determine if our child will then struggle for the next 10, 20 years trying to figure out who they are inside and outside in the world, or if we would already equip them to be grounded, that when they are leaving the world, they have a basis and a foundation to continue to explore and find direction in their life. And yes, how can we make this year the our best parenting year yet? There are many factors. And in the grand scheme of things, you are the major factor. And when I say you the parent, right? Who you are would determine who your child becomes to a very large extent. And this is why I tell people that you cannot do parenting effectively without looking at yourself, without dealing with yourself, without healing yourself. You cannot do parenting effectively without healing yourself. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If you are a parent who has money wound, right? Let's say you grew up with trauma around money. You grew up in an environment where money was a struggle and you didn't address that. You will pass that down to your children. If you're a parent who has a phobia, for example, maybe something happened to you in your childhood and you now have a phobia for swimming, for example, even if your child is destined to be the best swimmer or the Olympic swimmer, that your phobia will get in the way because you will be scared to allow your child to go for swimming trainings, right? So whatever you do not deal with in your own life, If you're a parent or a father who has problems with alcohol, for example, and you do not deal with that, you are likely going to expose your child to that experience, and they are likely going to pick that up as a norm because that's what they grew up seeing. So, whatever you do not deal with in your own life, just like a lot of us are struggling with anger, yelling, using bad words, using negative words, that is something that we inherited from our own parents, most likely. And because we haven't dealt with them, we are now still, you know, passing that on to our own children, right? So whatever we do not deal with in our parenting, that gone are the days where we just do things and we just feel everything will be all right? Everything will not be all right. Everything will not be all right if we don't do something about it, right? So if we want to change anything, if we want things to be different, if we want better for our children, then we have to become better. So it starts from who you become, not what you want to do, right? It starts from who you become, not what you want to do. Because when I work with parents one to one of the things I say, okay, let's first of all define what you want. Like, let's define the success that you want. Let's define the struggle or the challenges that you're going through. And then the next question will be, who do you need to become to make this happen? Right? Who do you need to become? I feel like I should show my face. So who do you need to become to make this happen? Who do you need to become to raise this kind of child? So I want to raise a confident child. What kind of person do you need to become to raise a confident child? Right? I want to raise a child who does not who has high self-esteem, who does not allow people talk down on them. I want to raise a child who is academically smart, all of the amazing goals and visions and dreams that we have for our children. But the question and the reflection and the assignment I want to give you today is, who do you need to become to actually raise that kind of child? Many times the things that we do is, and many of us are guilty of this, right? We go for trainings, we go for seminar, we have all these conversation, how not to beat, how not to do this, how to raise an A student, how to raise no matter the training, no matter the books you read, no matter the skills that you want to learn, if you don't become a person who can hand that legacy over to your child, you will struggle, because our children also see through the cracks, right? They see the things that we're telling them to do that we are not, right? And that's why there's a saying that says children will do what you do, not what you tell them to do. They will do, they will replicate, they mirror us, the things that they see us do, you know, to a very large extent. Maybe in the manifestation may not be the same in the sense of, you know, we're in a different generation, right? But if you look deeper, you would see yourself and many of your flaws in how they are, re-engaging or reimagine in your own children. So to make 2026 your best parenting year yet, this should be the year that you will look at yourself and say, where do I need healing? Where do I need to become? Where do I need to be more organized? Where do I need to be more attuned? Where do I need to be more grounded? Where do I need to fix myself again? What do I need to change? What do I need to learn? What do I need to adapt? What do I need to let go? Because sometimes we are holding on to things that we shouldn't be holding on to. What battles do I need to let go? What bitterness do I need to let go so that I can become? Because some of the things that even make you yell and aggressive towards your children are not really the things that they do. They are things that are seeping off from your other relationship. For example, if you're in a bad marriage, if you're in a marriage that triggers you, that overwhelms you, if you're with a partner who is not supportive and who probably is stepping out and all of those weighs on you as a person, and you have that resentment in you, and somehow that is transferred to the children, because sometimes you're seeing your partner in your children, and sometimes that anger that you have for them is still transferred to them. So I say all of this to say, number one, who do you need to become, right? Who do you need to become to actually make 2026 your best parenting year yet? So I'll give a few minutes for reflections based on everything I've said, because I don't just want to talk at you, I want us to talk. So you have listened to me talk for 15 minutes. Does anybody have any reflections based on what I have said so far? Anyone? I'd like to hear your thoughts. You must be thinking about something, aren't you? There must be something going on in your head based on everything I have said. So what is it? Does anyone want to talk? No? Okay. Okay. That's number one. Who you need to become. Did someone put something in the chat? Funsho, are you the one with your phone, or someone else is with your phone? Oh, someone said I'm shy to say this, so this is really a safe space, you know. Um it's good that the name on the screen is not your name, so you can actually talk if you want to. If you don't want to, all right. So, all right, that's good. There's nothing shy about that. Says so someone in the chat is saying, what if I don't I don't even know my purpose, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, I know that we have been taught purpose. There's a way that purpose has been taught that we feel like it's a destination, right? But purpose is really not a destination. Purpose is a journey, more like it is a destination. So, a lot of us, if I'm being honest, a lot of us in this room had to go through, dabbling and dabbling and dabbling, then finding what it is that we are really, attuned or aligned, that we feel like come naturally to us and that feels like our purpose, right? I personally I spent 6 years studying optometry, and I practiced it for another 8 to 9 years before figuring that, well, this is not what I want to do with my life, right? So, purpose is not one grand destination. And because our own parents many times raised us in survival and didn't pay attention to who we really are in the process of raising us and speaking life into who we are, many of us just, survived and, entered into things that would help us survive. And that's still okay. In your journey, God knows your journey, right? And every season of your journey is telling a story. So whatever you find yourself, purpose is doing things purposefully, with intent, with being present with whatever you're doing, giving your heart to it. And the more you do it, the more you can figure out, am I enjoying this? Which part of this is really fun for me? It was in doing optometry that I found out that what I wanted to do was different and it was deeper. So let me tell you, I worked in the clinic, right? And while I checked people's eye, and I was damn good at it. So it's not about maybe struggling with the profession, because I still have my patients from maybe 7 years ago, 10 years ago, who still reach out to me after they have seen whoever doctors they have seen. But I found out that while I do all the tests, while I do when it came to the counseling, when it came to speaking to people about the problems they have and about how to take care of themselves, I enjoy that. I enjoyed it so much so that most times in my clinical times, other colleagues used to complain that I took too much time with patients because I would talk to them and talk to them and talk to them and try to calm them even before we go into that. So it might be that whatever season you find yourself in is building you for what your purpose, quote and unquote, is. Right. So for sure, if you feel like you don't know your purpose, start paying attention to everything you do. Do things with intention, be present in whatever you're doing. Even see, some people, it can be that what that is for you is actually motherhood. I have seen somebody who says, I really enjoy motherhood. I really enjoy caring for my children. And she has built a whole business out of that because she was homeschooling her children. And she has built a community of over 300 families in Abuja who are homeschooling their children. Right, she actually moved from the UK to Nigeria to do that, and she's not ashamed to say it. She always says, "I enjoy motherhood, and I feel like my calling is motherhood." Right? So purpose is not a destination. Just enjoy your moments, enjoy every phase that you find yourself in, and in those moments, continue to do things with intention, continue to add value, and then continue to ask yourself, what am I enjoying in this process? What are the part of this whole thing that I like? It can be anything. And lean on God and ask him to give you direction. I have seen people build amazing things out of nothing or out of things that will ordinarily say, this doesn't make sense, right? So it's not a destination, it's a journey. And to help your children find their own or find themselves, just pay attention to the things they have natural inclinations for, the things that they enjoy, the talents that they're showing you, how they are expressing themselves. And it can change over the course of their life. But whatever you see that your child enjoys and they have natural inclination for, just nurture that, just encourage them in that. Don't shut them down in that, if that makes sense. And I hope that helps you feel better, right? um so yes, first thing is yourself, healing yourself, understanding where you need to improve, understanding things you need to let go so that you can show up as your real authentic self to your children, because that would help in that journey of making this year your best parenting year yet. The second thing is, so when it comes to actually having success in parenting, there are two things that are most that every other thing falls on, right? There are two things, excuse me, that every other thing falls under. You cannot be successful in parenting if you don't know the child in front of you. So if you have three children, three of them are different. So the next thing you want to pay attention to, or the next question you want to ask yourself is, who is this child in front of me? Right? Who are they? What's their character? What's their personality? How do they want me to love them? You know, pay attention to who that child is, understanding your child and speaking the language that your child wants to wants to hear is what will form the foundation of every other thing you want to teach them. Because if you don't understand them, you cannot teach them. And if they don't feel aligned and attuned with you, you cannot you cannot correct them. You cannot, influence them, if that makes sense, right? So who is the child in front of you? I was having a conversation with someone recently about boarding schools, and they wanted to send their child to boarding school, and we were just having conversation. She wanted to know my opinion and ask, I said, actually, boarding schools can help in helping children build independence. I don't know how boarding schools are right now. I went to boarding school myself. I wouldn't send my child to the kind of boarding school I went to anyway. I went to a federal government college. I wouldn't send my child to boarding school, to the kind of boarding school I went to. But um um if I was to send any of my children to boarding school, I would send my daughter, right? And why do I say I would send my daughter? Because I know her. I know her sense of self is strong. So she's the kind of child who doesn't really care. She doesn't. If you like, put your head down and put your leg up. She don't send anybody, Papa. Like, if you like, have a million things, and she doesn't. She's not bothered. She's not phased. But my son is a kind of child who wants everybody to see him, who wants, to be the clown, who wants to be the happy person, who wants everybody to be happy. So he's kind of a bit of a people pleaser. And him, I would not send to boarding school, right? So, but you see families do things like, oh, our children are going to this school, our children, will go to this specific school, it's a boarding school, and every child is sent to boarding school, regardless of who they are, regardless of their personality, no understanding of how that might impact that child. And then you send a child who has no business being in boarding school, you send them to boarding school, and then you disrupt the whole course of their life just by that simple decision. So it's important that we know our children, we understand each child. It's not every child. So even as you grow your emotional intelligence and as you're yelling and all of that, it's not every child of yours that can deal with that. Some children can deal with it more than others. There's a child that you will yell at now, and the next 5 minutes they're back up and they're playing. They don't think much about it. But there are children who are very reflective and intuitive, who take things really personally, that when you yell at them, they they take it's really deep, right? And when I say it's really deep, it's really, really deep. I worked with a family. The girl was 19 years old. She struggled with drugs. She mixed with the wrong crowd and got into drugs, right? And when I was having sessions with herself and her mom, one of the things that she told her mom, like, because we were in a session and then there was an argument and both of them were arguing, and one of the things she just blotted out in that argument was, she was telling her mom that, do you remember when I will come to you for you to hug me and then you push me aside, you know? And that might have looked like maybe a mom who is overwhelmed, who in that moment didn't have that space to give her daughter a hug. But this child carried that as rejection for a very long time. She carried that inside of her as like her mother rejecting her. And obviously, it's not that one isolated event, it was a repeated event, but she interpreted it as rejection and she carried it for a very, very long time. And this led into a lot of things, right? So I'm saying that to say, pay attention. If you have a sensitive child, just be sensitive as well to their needs, to how what they're asking of you, your tone, your body language, how you speak to them. They might be if you have sensitive children, there might be those kind of children where if you're angry, you don't speak in the moment. You can say, we will talk about it later, walk away, and then address that later. And those sensitive children are also sensible. I have one. They're sensible in the sense that when you sit down and have conversation and convince them and show them why you don't want or want what you want, whatever that case is or that event is, if you convince them with reasons and with facts, they hold it to heart as well. The way they hold ill treatment is the way they also hold conversations in their hearts, right? They are the kind of children who will even tell their siblings, oh, mommy has explained to us that we should not do this, and they will hold it and they will hold people accountable. So again, pay attention to the children in your home. Pay attention to the children you're raising. Who are they? How do they receive information? How do they prefer to be communicated to? How do they prefer that you speak to them? Listen to them. Your children give you feedback every day. So if you shouted at a child and they startled and they cried and they carried it for a long time, that is feedback for you to know that this thing affects this child differently from that other child that you shout at, and the next minute that they're just playing again. They don't care, they don't send and all of that. So if you have a sensitive child, please pay attention. If you also have carefree children, those ones have ways that you need to show up for them as well, right? Because a carefree child would then become a child who might allow people to speak anyhow to them, or who might not have firm boundaries, or who might be open to influence, or who might not have a stand or a say, in the things that they believe in. So those ones, that's how you show up for them, and that those are the things you focus on teaching them. So having a good understanding of who the child in front of you is as early as possible, from the moment your child starts forming their personality, from when they are 2 3, those starts to show gradually. Just really be present, be attentive to the behaviors, the expression, and whatever they're telling you, and let that form how you then start to engage them, how you then start to interact with them, right? That's number two. Who can remind me what the first one is and what the second one is, so that I know that I'm speaking to people. I know that you're present with me. What did I say? What's the first thing I said that we need to do to make 2026 our best parenting year yet? And what's the second
Know
thing?
who your child is.
Yeah. Know this is the first, this is the second one. Know who your child is. What's the first one?
I thought that was actually the first one.
The first one is yourself.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
We talked a lot about that, and then the second
Oh, I didn't know.
the second one is know who your child is, right? The first one is heal yourself, more like understand who you
Okay.
need to be, understand
Become.
who you need to be to raise that kind of child. And then the second one is know who your child is. And then the final one is grow your capacity to influence your child, right? And what I mean by this is the journey of parenting is the journey of influence, right? So the whole journey that you're going to go with your child is about influencing them to buy into your values, influencing them to understand your values, influencing them to adopt your values, influencing them to be a good representative of your values and all of that. That's the whole journey that you're going with your child. And if you don't build that capacity to influence your child, then you're going to struggle. That's where you have children who will be rebellious. That's where you have children who will talk back at you. Where you have children who, even though they don't talk back at you, even though they say, yes, mommy, okay, mommy, they'll go to your back and do it. That's where you have children who will do things in the house the way you want it. But when you hear who they are outside of the home, you're wondering, is it the same child that is in this house that they're talking about? Right? Influence is not forced. Influence is not power. Like it's not a power struggle. The moment, see, when I tell parents, I say the moment if you're speaking with your children, you're trying to get them to do something. The moment you start shouting, you have lost influence. That's because you have lost influence, right? Influence means that my child believes me. My child believes that I know better. My child trusts my decision. And I've built this kind of relationship where my child listens to me and does the things that I say, I tell them to do, because they understand that I mean well for them. They understand that, I know what I'm saying, and they understand that they can trust my decisions or my words, or all of that. So influence, build your capacity, and this is really so yesterday I was coming back from picking my kids from school, and then one of her friends joined us. We were walking down, and the girl was with her phone. My daughter is in year six, and at least 90% of people of the girls in her class, or children in her class, have phones. So that girl was playing with her phone while we were coming back, and then she was showing my daughter something in her phone, and she was like, "Oh, why don't you play Roblox? Most of the class people are on Roblox, and we get to play with each other." And my daughter said, "Well, we're not allowed to play Roblox." And she then came to me. She was saying, "Why?" I say, "Because I don't understand it, and I feel like you shouldn't be speaking to strangers online." And she was like, "Oh, but we don't speak to strangers." So she was trying to convince me, um, on why I should allow my daughter to play Roblox. And then I stepped back from that conversation, and then my daughter then took over that conversation and started explaining to her why they're not allowed to play Roblox. And that was because that decision wasn't made, or that influence didn't come on her as force, right? It was made with series of conversations, series of explanation, series of facts and figures, where she's able to see, all right, there's sense in this, there's reason in this is why we do this is why we don't do that. So even if and I'm not saying she's gonna be perfect. So even if she goes somewhere and they're playing Roblox and she feels tempted, and you know I get to hear about that, or I get to see that, I can still have a conversation with her that isn't forced, but more like a reminder to say, this is why you shouldn't do this. And that is influence. And even if I don't get to meet her, or I don't get to see her doing that, there is a seed that has been sowed in her that is deep rooted, much more than what every other person is doing, that helps her see that, okay, I shouldn't be doing this, because we have had series of conversations. So what you need to think about when it comes to influencing your children is, how do I build a sense of authority where I am respected, and but I don't have to fight for it. It doesn't have to be forceful. How do I create an atmosphere in my home where my words are trusted, right? Because we have to create that balance. Most people think that it is either this or that. So most people think it's either I am my children's friend, or I am their parent, right? You can be your children's friend, you can be present in their life, but still have really, really firm boundaries. When we talk about boundaries, discipline, and all of that, most people have a picture of a very strict parent who does not understand their children. But that will not help you. If you're strict like that, you will lose the relationship, right? But you want to have a relationship with your children, but you also want to help them understand that I am still your parent, and I'm trying to protect you, and I know better. I know better, not because I am smarter, so you don't want to demean your children as well. I know better because I've been here before you, right? And I can see things that you cannot see. Right, and this is relative, because sometimes children can even see things that you are not seeing. So that's why that relationship should be collaborative, but there is also somebody who needs to be the authority, who steers the relationship, and that person should be you, right? And for you to steer that relationship in that way, in where you have the authority, You will not you shouldn't function from just emotions, because in emotions you're just shouting and ranting. You're not making factual statements. And our children now are very, very intelligent, that if you continue to do like that, they will start to lose trust in you, in the sense that they say, this one, she's always shouting, she's just emotional and just shouting. But when you can have intelligent conversation with your children, when you're bringing facts, when you're bringing figures, when you're explaining things to them, right? If you're in the abroad, one of the challenges that you will have with raising your children here is this issue of technology. I mean, internet is free, light is 100% of the time. Children have phones everywhere. Even 6-year-olds are carrying iPhone 16, right? So that's a major struggle. And for me, how I have navigated that is by having conversations, that actual factual conversation, not, oh, I don't want you to have phone because you cannot have phone. It is reading articles, it is watching videos, it is showing how having these things affect the brain. Having that conversation with them, my first is 11 years old, by the way. So it's not like they are teenagers or adults, but your children can understand. Just break down that conversation in a way that they can understand, and speak to them like you are trying to eh, you know get get them to understand something. And this is why I say parenting is just like marketing, right? Marketing your values to your children, marketing your standpoints to your children until they understand it, and until they even become ambassadors of it, right? So even if it's a 5-year old, even if it's a 6-year old, you can speak to them in a way that they will understand. And also have at the back of your mind that them understanding doesn't mean that it is a one-off conversation. It doesn't mean that, oh, now I understand, so I will never make a mistake again. Oh, I will just enjoy it like that. No, they're still interacting with other young people who are doing things differently, right? So they will still come back to you if you have the backdrop of the relationship that is ideal with them. They'll still come back to you to ask you, oh, why can we not do this? See, this person did this today, they did that today. Why are we not allowed to do that? So you keep reinforcing the conversations and the foundations that you have built, right? So if you see the conversation we've had from the beginning of these things, you will see that all of this is a journey, and every interaction builds on the next, right? And this will require a version of you. Everything that I have said now, you cannot do if you are not that person, the person I described in my point one, right? You cannot actually do parenting in this time and age if you don't go back to heal yourself and become a grounded, patient, emotionally intelligent, healed human being. I'm telling you, because if we use the same gara gara and the same, shouting, beating that our parents used, you would it would look like it's successful in the interim, but ultimately you will lose your children. Ultimately you will lose your children, because they cannot wait to get out of your home. And the moment they go, that is it, right? And that goal can be from secondary school. So if you have a child who has gone to boarding school, you see them only 3 weeks in each holiday. By the time they finish, they come back, write jam, enter uni, and they are gone because they're not coming back home, right? So you want to build the capacity to have that balance of firm discipline but loving comfort, right? Where you have the balance of firm discipline but loving comfort. Because that, I think that's where we're missing it, where we think that if we have the loving comfort, then we lose the firm discipline. Or if we have the firm discipline, then we cannot have the loving comfort. Being a conscious parent, being a centered parent doesn't mean that you're not disciplined. It means that I will stay disciplined, but I will do it in kindness, right? So, for example, if my son started playing PS5 last year, so and we have a schedule for that. Sometimes he gets carried away and he exceeds his schedule. If I come out and see that he has exceeded his schedule and I take it away, right, as a consequence, he's going to hate it. He's going to cry. He's going to want it back. But firm discipline means that I will put my feet down and say, no, you cannot have this because we have discussed this, we agreed on this, but you broke it. So this is the consequence. And I love you. I'm going to give you a hug. You can come and lie down with me as you cry and as you mourn the fact that you have lost that access. But I'm not going to release it for you. And this is how you build influence, that tomorrow, when I come out and say, stick to your schedule because there are consequences to not sticking to your schedule, then that sticks. And I don't have to shout, I don't have to be forceful, and it also feels fair because we have had that conversation. It doesn't look unfair to him because I have taken my time, explained to him, and we both agreed. It wasn't something I agreed on my own and imposed, right? So you can have firm discipline. The problem is that a lot of us are so emotional that we shout, we talk, we say we will do, we will do, we will do, but we never do. We never follow through. We don't even know how to set the right consequences. So your child sees you as somebody who just rants, who doesn't do what they say. The next time when you talk and say you will do something, they're like, that's how mommy talks, that's how daddy talks. Would they ever follow through? They won't follow through, right? So these are skills that we need to learn to actually walk the journey of parenting in a way that, you know, we're not overwhelmed, we're not hurting our children, and we're building up our children in a way where they are disciplined, they're not emotionally hurt, and they are wholesome and they are growing to understand who they are to navigate the world that they have found themselves in. And in the course of this year, I know that I have said a lot, and you're probably wondering how, how can I how can I heal myself? How can I, get to know my children? How can I build this capacity to have this kind of influence over my children in the course of the year and in the course of these conversations that we're having? These are the things that we'll be supporting you with, right? We will be having this conversation every weekend, aside the last weekend of the month, and we'll be bringing out resources that would help you, consolidate or solidify these conversations that we're having, practical, simple, easy to use tools that you can use and implement right away to help you see the results that you need to see in your parenting. So that is it. So 3 points. How do you want to make 2026 your best parenting year yet? You need to become the parent um who will raise the child that you want to raise. Who do you need to become to raise the child that you want to raise? The second thing, you need to know the child in front of you. Who is your child and how should you interact with them based on who they are? And the final one, you need to build your capacity to be able to be that influence that your child needs in their life, right? Does that make sense? Do we have any questions? Do we have any reflections? Any questions, any reflections? Everybody's quiet. That makes me feel like I've been speaking to myself.
Hello, Dr. Vivian.
Hello.
Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to
We
say,
can hear you.
yeah, I was just going to say that this session has been very insightful. And as you were mentioning, um, I could relate with
Mm,
so many things. One, concerning understanding, I mean, getting to know myself. I'm beginning to see different version of myself that I've not seen before.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to understand that there are so many, what's it called? There are so many things that I still need to let go of from my
Yeah.
past that are still, influencing the way I'm parenting my children.
Yeah.
A lot of triggers and all of that. And sometimes when I react to a situation, later I'll be like, why did I have to, um, escalate the issue that much? So then I try to, retrace and retract. And my children, because I'm having, I have a preteen, I have teenagers, different behaviors all the time. So a lot of things I'm, getting used to. And when I'm in this kind of sessions, when I get to listen to you over and over again, it makes me reflect and remember and redirect and know how to start again. So thank you
Yeah.
very much, Dr. Gideon.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We hope to keep this really consistent. You people should keep me in your prayers. All right. Thank you, Rashidat. Good to hear that. Does any other person have anything to say before we call it a wrap?
Good morning, Dr. Vivian. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your help. Okay, I just realized recently that I have three of them, two boys and a girl, 13, almost 12, and a almost 9-year-old girl. So I realized that lie telling has crept into our family. An instance was keeping the phone away from them. So ordinarily when I would usually take the phone to work, keep it in the office from Monday to Friday. But because they have classes on Saturday evening, so I would bring the phone home. And in the process of bringing the phone home, they would always be on the phone playing games. So I kept the phone in my bag and someone moved the phone. He did. So I was hiding the phone. They too were, it was now like a competition. They too would take the phone too and hide it from me and all the rest. I was very furious the last time and I was asking who hid the phone and nobody owned up. Okay, another good example is this morning now. They didn't do the dishes yesterday. So my first is his turn to do the dishes this morning. And he was doing the dishes. My daughter now came in to tell me that someone did not finish his egg and spaghetti for lunch yesterday afternoon. So which of the three of you did not finish your lunch? And nobody is saying it is me. So I don't know where this is actually coming from. I understand that sometimes I yell or I take things out of proportion and all the rest, but
You have answered
this
yourself.
aspect.
You have answered yourself, really. Right? You have answered yourself. But let me come in. Many times why lies will come in is because of how you responded. So it's because of because of fear for how you will respond, right? That's why children lie many times, because in the past they have told the truth, or you have found out the truth and responded in a way that made them afraid. So they're just trying to protect themselves from that pain or that fear or from your anger, that then they start to lie, right? And it is something that you just need to retrace your steps, in the sense of helping them understand that you are that lying is you need to come to a point where you help them understand that lying is a grievous offense, much more than the original offense. Does that make sense? So, and it has to be a value-based conversation. So if you people already have your family values, where do you people place honesty, right? And you need to reward honesty much more than you're offended by lying, or much more than you're offended by misbehavior, sorry, right? So it's just a shift. And then with the conversation about the phone, right? I just had this conversation yesterday with my husband, really, because we were talking about, he was talking about his friend who had something, a device that you can put off your Wi-Fi so that your children will not have access to your phone. Excuse me. And I've had conversation with parents who will, when they're going out, they will take away their DSTV console and all of that. But I'm like, that's not effective. I'd rather teach you to be able to see that thing, have that thing, and not touch it than hiding it. I'm not going to play that game with you. I'm not going to be hiding phone and, hiding things from you, right? So it might be something to, I think you train them in the hide and seek game, right? The more effective way is to actually have the thing in sight and not do it. But children do not have the self-regulation. You will teach them with consistent action. You will teach them by being consistent over and over again, in helping them understand that it is, because in that sense you're not just teaching screen time management, you're also teaching delayed gratification, you're teaching patience, you're teaching multiple skills at the same time. It's okay for the phone to be where they can see it. It's okay for them to have it and then be the one to return it in that place after they have used it, right? But it is a process. They will fall sometime. Like I told you, my son sometimes will exceed his screen time. Then you implement consequences, right? I don't know what that will look like in your setting if they're using the device for their what's it called, for their lessons. It might be that if you take it when you're not supposed to take it, then you will not have it for when others are having theirs. So that is what will teach them to restrain themselves even when they feel like taking it. But when you're doing hide and seek, it becomes a child's game, and then they can also outsmart you in any. If you're playing games with your kids, they will outsmart you in any way. If you're using this thing to lock this one, that one, if they decode it, they will unlock it when you're not watching and lock it back for you when you're watching, right? So I think it's more about teaching the actual human skills to them so that they can learn to restrain themselves. I hope that's answered your question.
You did. Thank you.
And we would we would delve more into that. I think we will have a specific session that actually would speak about, why kids lie and what to do and how to avoid that, right?
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming. I wish I could take more questions, but I have to jump into another event. I'm actually heading out for another event. Okay, Mrs. BC, you have your hand up.
Yes, I actually want to talk about knowing your child. Sometimes you know them, and then when it comes to them actually knowing what they want, like when you were talking about guiding them to who they should become, or what, to be able to stand on their own, after a while when they've grown. What if there is an instance of, after, if they've tried, like in doing different things, but they can't seem to like hold on to it, or like get through, with whatever ahead, every opportunity that they've had. And so how do you even despite the fact that you every time you encourage them and say, okay, whatever they feel comfortable in, what they feel, okay, this is, where they are being led to go to, what in terms of their profession or their career or their job, and still maybe with a little challenge, and then
Mhm.
before you know it, comes to an end.
Yeah, so now I think it's just recognizing the fundamental struggle that the person is a person is struggling with, right? Sometimes they can help it, sometimes they can't help it. And how do you show up? How you show up is by teaching those fundamental skills. So it can be that they're struggling with organization, it can be that they're struggling with patience, it can be that they're struggling with executive function in the sense of following through things, like following through to finish what they start, right? So it's identifying what the specific challenge is that is making them give up too easily. It can also be resilience, right? So it can be that maybe they're children who have had things so easy that the moment they face a little bit of difficulty, they give up. So you need to identify, and it can be many of these in one. So you need to identify which one it is, or which of them that the child is struggling with, and then starts to think of how can I start building this outside of specific events. How can I get opportunities to build this, right? So it's hard. It's really, really hard when the person is already an adult, because now there is a limit to what you can tell them to do and enforce, right? But if the person is still younger, then you're now looking for opportunity to help teach resilience. And it doesn't have to be in serious things. So teaching a young child resilience, let's say teaching a 3-year-old resilience can look like if they are playing with their Lego and it has become difficult and they dump it and go to another toy, you bring them back to that Lego and sit with them until they finish it. So you're teaching them in those small moments how to finish what they have started, right? So as an adult child, if your child is an adult, what you need to do is it's really encouragement, but it's up to them to accept that, right? So encouraging them what they start, encouraging them and showing up, okay, where are we with this? What progress have you made? How can I support you? How do we move on from here? Is there anything you're finding difficult? Can we talk about it? So just creating that space, if it's an adult child, creating that space, and hoping that it's safe enough for them to join you in that space, and then you help them follow through. If that's a skill that they haven't built over time, it's difficult, but it's a journey really. But it can be with that loving comfort, and that relationship, it can actually be achieved. Ziaomi, someone has their hand, but it's not your name. It's your phone name or something. Ziaomi, can you? So 3 more minutes and I have to
Good
jump out.
morning, Dr. Vivian.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for all you do. Actually, in the WhatsApp group, and
We can't
I
hear you.
saw something.
It's cracking.
Thank you.
Yeah,
How
please
about
go.
now?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I saw something on the WhatsApp group about, I think, children, siblings sleeping together. I don't know if that was addressed because I came in late. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Okay. What's the question?
The question was if it was okay the way they were. There was a pictorial depiction of how the siblings were sleeping together on the
Oh,
WhatsApp
how the children were sleeping together on the
group.
WhatsApp group. Yeah, I don't even know why I didn't address that. So the thing is that I mean, there has been a lot. I mean, the internet, a lot is going on the internet, that a lot of parents are parenting from a place of fear. We now impose our adult minds on children, right? Now it is hard to say there's something going on the surface, right? I don't see anything wrong with siblings, falling asleep like that. And that's on the surface. But I feel like for the parents, they're really, really not wise to bring that out to the internet space and to ask strangers about it. But I think that if you feel like, if for a parent, there's a reason why you have gut feelings, right? And if a parent walked into their child sleeping like that and they had a gut feeling, sometimes that gut feeling is also fear based on all the information that we have soaked in from the internet. But if you have that gut feeling, the first response is curiosity, really, to really say, what happened? Why are you guys sleeping like that? But not to put fear in children and not to put ideas in their head. Many times children are really innocent. The things that, even when they ask questions. So for example, I've had instances where parents will come and say, oh, my child asked me what is sex, right? And when we unpack that question, they are really coming from a place of gender, right? Not a place of sexuality, right? So it's really curiosity. If that parent walked into their children like that and felt like there's something going on here, why should they be sleeping together like this? I feel that the approach should be curiosity, as with everything in parenting. Never assume that you know what is going on and then you go and start shouting and saying things that will then make your child have ideas that they shouldn't have. It should be more of questioning to understand how they are thinking about it and what is going on in their head before you can make a conclusion or you can even react to that. So at face value, that picture, there is nothing wrong with it. Those are just two children who have played their lives out and passed out on the sofa to sleep, and their siblings. There's really nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Okie dokes. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you again same time next week. We will share some of the topics that we'll be sharing, the topics that we'll be talking about in subsequent weeks. If there's anything you want us to address, please let us know, and we would also be sharing resources based on the conversations that we have had in the 3 weeks of the month. After each conversation, we'll share resources that will help you implement everything that we have discussed. All right, thank you. Have a beautiful weekend, and go to the group and vote on that poll. Do you want us to have it at this time, or do you want us to have it Friday night? I know that Friday night is winning, but let's see how it goes. It's amazing. Someone in Canada made it by 3 a.m. Thank you, Mrs. BC. I really wasn't expecting you, but thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Dr. V. Bye.
Bye.